Hey guys, this is Anon, and today I want to focus on the Chi-Ri, the Tier 7 Japanese medium tank, and I want to focus on it mostly because I think this is a tank that is really misunderstood and misplayed a lot of the times. I know there's a big contingent of people that don't really enjoy this tank because of the negatives that come along with it, where it has a giant size, it's not particularly fast, even though it's mobile enough, and has no armor, and that tends to make people think it's just a bad tank. Where it really has a few good attributes and a fantastic gun that can make it a good tank as long as you're playing it the right way. So these aren't going to be two overly spectacular games, but it's two solid games from kind of the same session of playing that really is just going to emphasize good kind of tactics with this tank. So that's how I really want to focus on. When I say this tank is misunderstood, it's largely because people they see just the negatives with this tank, but for me the main positives are that it really has a fairly accurate gun. It's got good aim time, it moves around well enough, it's got really nice gun depression, which is fantastic and starts to negate the size of it, because anytime you have good gun depression you can work ridge lines and only expose up to your gun, which is going to make that tank a lot smaller. And it sneakily has some of the best DPM in the game, period. It's actually tied with the Comet, which for Tier 7 top DPM, which I think a lot of people don't realize, because it has that autoloader that you're actually putting out a lot of damage. And for me, I really like the game style of it, because it's more of a tank that allows you to sneak out, dish out a lot of damage, and then hide for a minute while the red team frequently gets distracted and starts to focus on other things. So all of that can negate a lot of the negatives with this tank. So you can see right in here on Rockfield, I rolled to the front, which is something that I'm rarely going to do in this tank, but it's partially based on the matchup. But as soon as all the tanks on the red team were focusing on my spot right next to this IS, I decided to move and use the gun depression on this hill, because it allows me to do exactly what I said. I can poke up, shoot, and sneak back down again. This tank, because of the high DPM and the burst capability of the gun, is a really good hit point trader. It's got a decent hit point pool, but when you poke out and take one shot but get to dish out 3 shots in return, that is usually a pretty good trade as long as you're being cautious about it. This is more of an instance of using hit points as a resource. I have enough resource here where I can take a shot, but I can finish off one of their top tanks that are left, and for me then that's an okay change. So this battle now is going to move into more of kind of a mop-up role with only 2 tanks left, but it's just, again, another kind of good example. I'm being really cautious here with this T-34. Even though we have the advantage left, he can put a shot into me really easily because I don't have armor. So this flat ground is not where this tank is going to necessarily shine. It can side scrape just a little bit because it does have fairly wide tracks, but in general pretty much everything is going to penetrate you. So that's why it's really a second line tank. You don't necessarily need to be super far away from the action because you want to be able to get all 3 shots to connect as much as possible, but you definitely do not want to be on the front line. You're going to lose that battle a lot of times. The DPM will still let you win some brawls, but then it's going to take away that hit point resource for the rest of the battle. So even though I died there, it's still, I think, a really solid example of how to play this tank and really using that DPM to a good advantage, especially with the poke out and roll back again. I really, dying there is just kind of what happens when you lose a little bit too many hit points at the beginning of the game. So gonna roll here into Old Mines. I still have a little bit of collection of Old Mines gameplays here, so I'm still going to show some of them because I feel like the gameplay with New Mines is still really similar. We might see the meta evolve, but it's still a kind of a hill battle because that's still a good advantage, and especially a tank like this with good gun depression, that needs to be the focus. So we're rushing up, but they've got a ton of DPM up here with a Comet, a Cromwell, and a Chi-Ri that's coming up to the left. So have to be a little bit cautious with it. I'm not rolling straight up, but my platoon mate has gotten stuck And so I'm going to try and help him as much as I can, but now once that Comet's gone and the others have ran off the hill, I go ahead and decide to take the damage punishment from the other Chi-Ri to go ahead and take that advantage position. Because as soon as I'm up here now, you can roll to that backside and really start laying in with that DPM, and that's what's so fantastic about it. Hide behind the bushes and be able to just pump 3 shots into this T-29, and that's just a huge chunk of his hit points gone. It changes what he has to do in the game now. Or at least it should, and it really makes him second guess a little bit. And there's enough gun depression with the Chi-Ri that I can stay quite a ways back and just peek over. So again, even though this tank is absolutely gigantic, I'm not going to argue that it's a huge tank, but the part that has to be exposed at any given time is actually not that large. And so you can just kind of focus on one tank at a time. The Chi-Ri is the biggest danger left, and my platoon mates remind me about the KV2, which I had already seen, but that's part of the reason I'm staying in this position where I am, because the rock to my right is keeping his gun from being able to hit me. So as long as I kind of keep in parallel with that, I'll be safe. The Chi-Ri surprised me a little bit. I didn't realize he was looking at me, which is a little bit of a mistake, but still able to get rid of him, even though I had to sacrifice some hit points to do it. This is not a tank that I think you're going to come out of a lot of battles unscathed, but it's because it has to be more of that hit point resource thing. I know I've hit on that a lot, but it's a tank that it's really important to kind of consider that, and don't be afraid to use it when you need to. So again, cleaning up here a little bit too, but I hope this helped a little bit. I know this is a kind of a quirky tank, but it can be really good if you play it the right way, and I don't think people should be scared of it, especially with this whole line, because the STB is really worth grinding for. So like I said, hopefully this helps a little bit. If you like it, please give it a like and subscribe on YouTube. Plenty of stuff coming, and I appreciate all the support, guys, so thanks a lot.